East Rutherford, New Jersey, July 19th, 2026. The whistle goes, and a 39-year-old man in a blue and white shirt stands completely still while Spain celebrates around him. Spain 1, Argentina 0. Ferran Torres, the 106th minute. It is the same stadium where, 10 years earlier, that same man told the world he was finished with his national team. 2 weeks before this, on a hot afternoon in Arlington, Texas, a 41-year-old Portuguese man walked off a World Cup pitch for the last time, beaten by the same opponent. 2 careers, 2 endings, 1 month. But here is the part almost nobody says out loud. Neither of them was ever supposed to get this far. Both of them came within touching distance of leaving football before they turned 16. This is how close it actually was. Rosario, Argentina, the late 1990s. A boy is playing for Newell's Old Boys, and he is the best player on the pitch by a distance. He is also the smallest player on the pitch by a distance. At around 11 years old, doctors give the family the diagnosis: growth hormone deficiency. His body has decided to stop. The treatment exists, a nightly injection into the leg, every single night, for years. He learns to do it himself. The problem was never the needle. The problem was the invoice. The treatment cost roughly $900 a month in a country sliding into economic collapse. Newell's had promised to help. The payments thinned, then stopped. River Plate, one of the biggest clubs in South America, looked at him, wanted him, and would not cover the medicine. A club watched a boy who would go on to score more than 800 career goals and decided the prescription was too expensive. Football has made stranger decisions. Not many. So Jorge Messi, his father, started knocking on doors that had no obvious reason to open. And in December 2000, a 13-year-old boy flew to Barcelona for a trial. Carlos Rexach, the club's sporting director at the time, watched him for a few minutes and understood immediately. The board did not. The negotiation dragged. Rexach, running out of patience and paper, wrote the agreement on a paper napkin at a tennis club in Barcelona. December 14th, 2000. A contract that changed football was written on something designed to be thrown away. But the story does not become triumphant there. It becomes lonely. The family moved to Catalonia, and it did not work. His mother Celia and his siblings went back to Rosario. The boy stayed behind with his father, in a foreign city, in an empty flat, still injecting himself every night. At La Masia, the academy, he barely spoke to anyone. The other boys had a nickname for him: the Mute. He was 13, injured often, homesick constantly, and paying for his own body to grow. Nobody would have blamed him for going home. Now go back 3 years and 2,000 miles north. Funchal, Madeira. A 12-year-old boy gets on a plane alone to join Sporting Clube de Portugal in Lisbon. He arrives with an island accent that the other boys find funny. They mock it. He is small, poor, and very far from his mother. He cried himself to sleep, and he asked to come home. Maria Dolores Aveiro, his mother, talked him out of it. That conversation is the reason the last 20 years of football looked the way they did. His father, José Diniz Aveiro, worked as a kit man at the little local club where his son first played. He was also an alcoholic, and he died in 2005 at 52, before he ever saw what his son became. And then, at 15, the diagnosis: tachycardia. His heart raced even at rest, sitting down, doing nothing, sprinting internally. For a boy whose entire future depended on running, this was not an inconvenience. It was a possible ending. His mother said it plainly years later. Before they knew what it was, she was afraid he would have to give up football. The surgeons used a laser to cauterize the source of the problem. He was operated on in the morning and discharged the same afternoon. He was back in training within days. Most people take longer off work for a filling. So look at what these 2 teenagers actually had in common, because it was not talent. Talent was never the rare part. Every academy in the world is full of 13-year-olds who are the best player anyone has ever seen. What separates them is almost always something duller and heavier. whether the thing that goes wrong at 15 ends them. One boy's body would not grow. The other boy's heart would not slow down. Both of them had a completely reasonable, medically supported exit available. Neither took it. And what they built afterwards came out of exactly those years. The Portuguese boy who was mocked for his accent turned himself into the most obsessively trained athlete of his generation. Extra sessions, weighted vests, a career extended into his 40s by sheer refusal. The Argentine boy who could not outmuscle anyone learned to play in the spaces where strength does not matter and never really stopped playing that way. Neither style was a gift. Both were a solution to a specific childhood problem. The habits that made them enormous were formed in the years when quitting made the most sense. Which brings this back to a Sunday afternoon in New Jersey. Argentina managed 2 shots in 120 minutes. Emiliano Martinez made 10 saves, a record for a men's World Cup final, and it still was not enough. Ferran Torres scored 39 seconds into the second half of extra time, and it was over. And Lionel Messi stood in the middle of a pitch at the age of 39, in the same stadium where he had announced in 2016 that he was done with Argentina. He came back from that one too. 2 weeks earlier, Cristiano Ronaldo had said the quiet part out loud in Texas. It was his last World Cup. He gave everything. He leaves with a clear conscience. Neither of them got the ending they wrote for themselves. Both of them got roughly 25 more years of football than the medical file suggested they would. There is a version of this story where a doctor's letter in Rosario is the end of it. There is a version where a homesick 12-year-old gets back on a plane to Madeira and becomes someone we never hear about. Those versions are not exotic. They are the normal outcome. What was strange was not that 2 boys were extraordinary. It was that both of them, at the exact moment leaving was the sensible choice, decided to stay 1 more year. Which makes the last 20 years of argument look slightly different. Messi or Ronaldo, left foot or right foot, the gift or the grind. Ballon d'Ors counted like receipts, goals recounted every summer, entire comment sections built on the idea that one of them must be diminished for the other to be great. And here is a personal verdict, for whatever it is worth. The debate was never really about who was better. It was about which childhood you recognized in yourself. The rivalry is the reason both of them got this far. Neither would have run that hard for that long without the other one on the other side of the table, refusing to slow down. Take one of them out of the story, and the other one is smaller. That is not sentiment. That is just what 20 years of pushing each other does. So keep arguing. That part is fun, and it is never going to end. But understand what you were actually watching. Living through a period where both of these men were on a pitch at the same time was luck, nothing else. Football may wait a very long time before it produces 2 careers that collide like that again. So argue about them all you want. Just never disrespect either one of them while you do it. Which leaves one more thing worth arguing about. Whose obstacle was genuinely harder to survive? A body that refused to grow, or a heart that refused to behave? Tell me which one you'd rank higher, because football fans have never agreed on this, and probably never will. If this story was worth your time, drop a like, and subscribe because football history is full of moments like this one.